the issue of handling the culture of a local community that you intend to help, or a local person you intend to help, or a local venture business or business that you intend to help, and getting into their viewpoint and culture in order to help them. The words for describing this are very simple, and you've already heard them, and I know a great deal of what you think about it, and you know a great deal of what I think about it already. But it's really fraught with serious difficulties. First of all, helping somebody is very, very social, and so you don't get to decide what that is. And even if it's a real help, if it's nowhere in their priorities, even though it actually helps them a lot, they won't value and care and keep it installed. And so, from your outsider perspective, this is really going to help them even now and down the road, but you have no way of installing it because it's not on their priority list, and they have things that they are much more seriously interested in. And they're not going to make room for your thing, and they may pretend to be nice to you, but it isn't going to stick, and it's going to go off immediately. So the word help is ill-defined, number one. And number two, even where it's well-defined, both for them and you, it won't stick unless it fits their priorities of what help they think they need, not what help you think they need. And number two, the cultural differences involved is like, everybody's a culture and a different culture than me, and I'm a different culture than you, and everybody's a different culture than each other. And so we all have different ideas of what excellence is, and what good is, and what wonderfulness is, and what trouble is, and what failure is. We all define those differently, complicatedly differently, not sort of slightly differently, but real, measurable, big, hard to predict, weird differences about how we define each of those. And so we each are an individual culture, which means these basic words, creativity, educatedness, excellence, good, bad, etc., don't mean the same things when you say them to each other. And this is the old communication point I've made in other videos, where I say the word pixely dupe, and it comes out of my head under 3 or 4 layers of context, but you don't have those layers of context in your head, and so even if you hear the word from me, it's not going to mean the same for you. And so I have to both say the word to you and install 3 new layers of context in you so that you can process the word with those layers of context and end up with the same interpretation I have. But each of those layers of context will not have the same meaning in your existing layers of context that it has in my existing layer. So you end up with the same problem further removed. Now, there are times where I can override your priority with what I spot that you need in such a way and communicate it in such a clear way to you that you change your priorities. That does happen. And wow, I normally never would have listened to that, but somehow, Richard, you said it in just the right way to fit in with another change I wanted to make with myself, and I'm ready to let go of this old view and try that weird thing you said, which normally I would not be interested in or receptive to. And I've had that happen to me, where somebody rudely or otherwise accidentally overrode my priority with some help they thought they would give me, and even though they may have been badly intentioned or incompetent or rude, as I listened to their actual proposal and its worth in my system and layers of context, I sort of agree. Wow, that's pretty interesting, and I would not have thought of that on my own, certainly not this time, and it came to me from them, and let me process that. Let me do something about that. That's not bad. So it does happen, but it's rare. And therefore, this whole thing of helping each other is not nearly as simple as it seems. And therefore, this whole thing of cooperating with each other is, in business, done at unbelievably superficial levels. So that walking into someone's room for 5 minutes alone will enable you to know more and predict more about their behaviors and beliefs and attitudes than working with them every day for a year does. This is, reported results of research, replicated. So we operate on such superficial, shallow levels of knowledge about each other that we are nowhere near penetrating the layers of context differences between my layers of context and your layers of context. And so relationships are different than interacting roles in a business. Relationships is where this mutual disclosure of more and more intimacy, and I begin to learn the layers of context in you that make you interpret messages differently than I do, and you begin to learn the ones in me that make me do. And at least half, I think a lot more than half of those layers of context are embarrassing things. Failures, losses, defeats, embarrassments, crimes, violations, sins, that we don't normally want to run around the world and ballyhoo to everybody, because there are a lot of bad-minded people in the world who will use it against us even though we don't deserve it. And so we very quite rightly edit that stuff out. But that's what you need, and it requires this mutual trust. I disclose a little to you, you disclose a little to me, and you've got to do that mutual thing, that dance of disclosure, to build a relationship. And the result, the reward of the relationship is knowing some of those layers of context and then being able to send messages that really have exactly what it means for you means almost exactly what it means for them. And communication becomes really amazing. And then the power of 3 people, 4 people who really communicate change the world, change anything in the world. Karl Marx was quite right about that. Lenin was quite right about 4 or 5 intellectuals drinking coffee together too many times in a coffee shop are a revolution, a possible revolution. So the paranoid secret police guys are right. 4 or 5 people who really, really communicate really can change the destiny of the world. And the relationship building is so much more powerful than interlocking roles in business. And so one way that I've been very, very powerful and innovative in business is going in and building that set of relationships of context disclosure, as opposed to just getting some interlocking roles to get to know each other and define what you're going to do and what I'm going to do next type stuff. And I'm really not interested in your role in the business. I'm really interested in you and I are fellow travelers on the earth together, and where lives are very short, and you're one of the fellow travelers during this small instant I'm alive. And that makes you an enormous entertainment to me, and one of the most interesting things in the universe to me is talking with another human being. And I don't let the business get in the way of the entertainment that's there of being alive with another human being on a journey together. And I make the business serve the larger purpose of this ontological worth of being on the planet together with others. And then I found that that in turn allows me to do things in business that no businessman can get done, that look impossible.